Welcome to I'ma Talk About It. I'm Alicia E., empowerment coach and ancestral healer, and I'm here to teach you how to break generational cycles, self-advocate, and ascend to happiness without the guilt of wanting a better life for yourself. You don't have to choose the same path as those before you. You can choose a better way, your way. Because if we can each heal ourselves today, we can heal the world tomorrow together.
Hello, everyone. Oh my gosh. I am super excited for today's episode. It is officially episode 16. It is the final episode of season 1, and I am so fucking excited. I've also been reflecting on how far this podcast has come, and oh my gosh, that's all I have to say. For anyone else who runs a business or has a podcast, it is such a wild ride to put yourself out there, but I feel like I can talk about this literally all freaking day, but I really want to get into what we're going to speak about. Today's episode is called Be Not Afraid of the Life in the Shadows. Let's talk the secrets within. Ooh. One last thing I want to say. I just want to say thank you all so much. Like, there has been my tried and true crew who have been supporting me on this podcast journey, who have been doing the work, who have helped out all along the way. And I am so thankful for you all. And one last reflection before I get started is I remember being really fucking terrified of starting a podcast, and it was like over a span of a few years. And then come the last year, it was like people I didn't even know were telling me to start a podcast, and I was like, okay, spirit, like, message fucking received. And my lovely partner Ashley was like, what the hell are you waiting for? And so I did, and it was another first leap for myself, and it was a beautiful experience. There was also a lot of big lessons that I learned along the way, and one of the best things that have helped me is having a support system, which I talk about all of the time, and surrounding myself with people who were doing the same thing or who knew me enough to know what I was trying to do and could support what I was trying to do, and really honoring the leap that I took. And I want everybody to also reflect on their own life and honor the leaps that you take every single day and the life that you create that you want every single day, and why it's important to just go for it. Like, I had never started a podcast and I just fucking did it. I figured it out all along the way, and now it is freaking amazing in my opinion, and it's only going to get better. It's only going to go up from here. And I also wanted to say is that this podcast was also about me valuing my own story so that others could learn to value theirs. But it was also a letter of urgency, asking people to wake the fuck up and do the work so we can all find peace, and so that we can learn to heal and move on from what felt like, and what sometimes still feels like for some people, a perpetual state of suffering, right? And take responsibility for our actions and how we treat the world and how we show up in the world and how we interact with everyone around us. And I am just so excited with how far it's come and how many people have reached out and been like, you know, I'm ready to change my life, and I'm ready to help change this world. And it's been such an honor to be with you all. We've come far as a family, as a community, and I can't wait to see what this next phase unfolds. I have been sharing on social media as well that I've been pulling lots of Fool cards. For anyone who's new, it's the first card of the deck. It's the beginning of the journey. The tarot deck tells a full story, a full story, not a fool story. Well, it tells both, but you know what I mean. So shit is about to get really fucking exciting, and I am just so happy, and I hope that you all stick around to see how it unfolds, because we're all going to ascend together. Okay, so my roundabout way of getting back into it. So the reason I specifically called this episode Be Not Afraid of the Life in the Shadows is because I want to flip your view on shadows. I want to completely fucking flip it on its head to help facilitate a different perspective of the healing journey and how we view the shadow aspects of ourselves. And when you think about shadow, what do you imagine? So I know in the beginning I would see, and sometimes every once in a while, I would still see darkness or have the sense of spookiness or chills or depth, right? There's a lot of depth there in the shadow, unknowing, and literally everywhere it's represented this way. And yes, some of that is true, but some of it is also, not some of it, a large part of it is also a projection of people's beliefs, right? Another's belief system or what they believe the shadow to be. I mean, there's a whole fucking genre of horror film and about shadows and like all sorts of things, right? So what we, though, fail to remember is that the shadow, and this is a shout out to my more than worthy folk because I feel like you're going to pick this up. We fail to remember that the shadow is an existence. It isn't something and it isn't not something. It's just like awareness. And within the shadow is life. Just like the light aspect of ourselves. Hence, be not afraid of the life in the shadows, right? There is life within the shadows. And I want you to think about the shadow and how often you or we've been taught to run away from it, to not go there, right? It's dark. Or if you share a story that's maybe more shadowy, people say, oh, you're being depressing, or it's just dark, right? There's an inherent need to avoid it, to hide it, to not value it. And I want to ask everybody, like, why? Why do you feel the need to avoid a shadow or a shadow aspect or this life that is in the shadow, right? And I'm sure you can guess why people usually avoid it. And it always comes back to fear. Fear of what it is, fear of not knowing, right? We always, as a society, as history has shown us, we fear what we don't know, which is why we fear other people for no good reason, because we don't understand them. We haven't taken the time to get to know them alongside other historically racist reasons. But for the sake of time, we fear what we don't know. So now tell me, how do we learn anything in life? Like, what is the process of learning? We get to know it, right? And what do people sometimes do when something is too powerful? They destroy it or they run from it. So this is the exact same situation for the shadow. But what people also fail to remember so often and to realize is that our shadow is the source of all of our answers. Like all of them, not just one or two, like fucking all of them. And here's why. It's really fucking hard to just trust and follow the light, right? Like you hear a lot of spirituals or maybe even coaches, sometimes I've seen this, like, you just have to trust, right? You just have to trust. But why is it so fucking hard to trust, aside from historical things? And why is it so hard to just fucking trust the light or the light source or the light within you, right? You have to surrender all of this thing. But what is this thing? Because you fucking know there's something else you need in order to surrender, you can't surrender, right? You can't fully trust it. It prevents you from trusting. Well, hello, friends. That's your fucking shadow. Right? It's as simple as that. You have to have a balance between the two. You cannot just willy-nilly trust the light and expect it to be easy, because you're neglecting an entire part of who you are, an entire part of balance, an entire part of the world, an entire part of the universe. You need both. So let me tell you a story to just explain this a little bit further. So my own journey with my shadow has always been weird and stressful as fuck. I feel like I've told this a million times, but maybe someone's tuning in today, so I'm going to retell it. But I used to live, growing up, in a house that was definitely haunted. My sister and I still have lots of dreams about that place. And I slept with my bed facing the door. Well, the door was off to the left, but I could see down the hallway, and it was always pitch black. And we were never allowed to close our door for some reason. It just was horrifying. And I slowly began to become terrified of the dark. Like, I couldn't handle it. I would have panic attacks. I would cry and scream until I felt safe. Like, my sister sleeps like a rock, and we shared a room at the time, but she could sleep through anything. I could walk over there and shake her, and she wouldn't even know about it. But I was horrified of the dark. And as I grew up, like, especially in the last 5 years, I have a better understanding of why I was so afraid of the dark and the shadows and all of these things, right? It was because of my own gifts. It was because of other things that people weren't helping me understand. I understood I was fucking horrified because I didn't know who the hell I was. I didn't know about myself. I didn't know about my spiritual gifts. I didn't know that I could see things or pick up on things. No one had told me, because that stuff was considered too dark or too shadowy. And so I was experiencing all of this energy around me and seeing all of this energy around me. And my instinct was to run from it because everybody else ran from it. Everybody else ignored it and pretended like it didn't exist. So today, my partner and I we like to call them ghosties. They're not all ghosties, but that's just what we call anything. Or energies. And for a long time, even as an adult, I ran away from them. I ran away from my past. I ran away from stories. I ran away from the pain. I ran away from the hurt. I ran away from life itself, it felt like, right? Like, there were so many moments in my life that were like that hallway moment that just made my shadow almost incomprehensible and dangerous for no reason. And eventually it snowballed into panic attacks and feeling angry at my parents because they weren't there. They weren't showing me. They weren't teaching me. They weren't caring for the young inner child that I now had to carry and had to figure out how to heal and learn how to cope and all of these things that I should have known already. And I was also angry that no one understood me when I would try to talk about energies or things that I was experiencing, which then led to me shrinking my voice and staying away from certain situations or not believing or, staying away from my own magic and essentially my own truth, like who I was and who I am at my core. Everything got shoved into that fucking shadow, right? So for 30 something years, and now I'm 33, I'm not pointing out the significance of 33. You can Google it. It's a cool age. I was essentially opening the door to my spirituality, to my shadow, and then quickly slamming it because it was scary. And that's what I was taught my whole life. But I knew along my path, like as things were beginning to align, as I was meeting different people, as I was seeing things again and feeling things again and meeting a partner who experienced and felt things on a very high level that made me not run away from it, because I also couldn't run away from it, right? But I could see how someone could manage their life with beautiful gifts and aligned and do all of the amazing, beautiful work that they do. And I also knew recently that there was a reason why I needed to come home. Like I had told my partner that, I always wanted to leave Santa Barbara. I wanted to get started. It was not a place for me, but towards the end, I felt like I was getting shoved out of Santa Barbara. Like, when, for my spirituals, when you just do shit that you're not supposed to do and you keep doing it, and then eventually spirit's like, fine, I'm gonna show your ass, right? And then you start to hit friction after friction until you do something or you listen, and then there's that friction eases. It was the same thing when I moved out of Santa Barbara, and it was the same thing when we moved out of Southern California. I was met with so much friction. And I knew there was a reason I had to come home, and I kept hearing these songs about home and like all this stuff. And I even one day made Ashley listen to this song like 50 million times because I was like, I'm not picking up on what they're trying to tell me, because my guides talked to me through songs and many other ways, but I wasn't as open back then. And she would like try and guess, and I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this to you, because it's clearly meant for me. Like I just can't get it together. But I knew I had to come home, metaphorically and literally. And so I did, and completely dove into my shadow like I've never fucking expected ever in my lifetime. And it was because of my shadow needing to be acknowledged, needing to be unlocked, needing to be seen as something that wasn't evil, that wasn't like something that you kick to the curb. It was also the place where my inner child was and is sometimes when things bubble up to the top, right? Everything that we've experienced as young kids or children, babies, up until we're an adult, a lot of the negative things get shoved in the shadow, right? Symbolically and literally. Like we shove shit in closets, right? Like it all gets shoved there. And so it's important to pay attention to your shadow. Because again, the shadow is where your inner child lives until you do the fucking work. But even then, it's not just in the shadow, it's buried in the shadow. And it's stuck in a state of fear. And that's why we have so many resources about overcoming fears and negative self-talk. Like there's a million coaches now, right? Because we are the masters at burying shit in the shadows. But it'll never go away, the pain and the suffering and the fear, unless you actually heal and bring that inner child to the forefront and say, like, literally fucking hello, and embrace that child with all of the fucking love and compassion that they deserve, that you deserve. You don't have to shove your life and your light away and your gifts away because your parents were really shitty at what they did. Maybe they did their best, like whatever it is, but you don't have to continue to shove away your light just because they didn't know how to handle you. They didn't know how to be with you or how to love you or how to teach you about compassion because someone likely didn't teach them either, right? So you have to wake up. Like, it's okay to be upset that maybe your parents or caregivers didn't give you what you need. But it's all about what you're going to do with that information now. Will you lock away your shadow and never experience life? Or will you embrace who you are and your gifts? And let me tell you, in all honesty, on this journey to discovering your shadow and discovering your gifts and the life within the shadow and the secrets within, you will literally fucking outgrow people with the quickness, right? When you decide to live in your shadow in tandem with your light, you will outgrow people because you're balancing. People like to stay imbalanced. It's easier to stay imbalanced. They like to live in a state of fear or sadness or pain because it's easier, it's familiar. Living in your shadow and living in your light simultaneously is very fucking difficult. And I talked about this earlier in the week, but the work we do as healers or spirituals or anybody who is out there trying to do the work on themselves, it takes a lot of fucking work. You are not just trying to put a Band-Aid on a fucking paper cut. You are putting Band-Aids, not even Band-Aids. You are cleaning your wound. You are adding Neosporin. You are adding comfrey. You are like stitching it up. You are doing all the things. And then you're coming back and checking in on it. You are making sure it's healed. Like, it's a fucking process, right? And it's a lot of work, but it's absolutely worth it. And yeah, not everybody can do that because it's really hard. And that's okay. But just know that sometimes on this spiritual journey, you may feel lonely. I know I did. And I know every time I up level, I do, because I have to journey to myself, and sometimes it can feel lonely. But there's me, right? We're used to being around distractions. That's why we have TV and texting and driving and calling and all of these things. We don't know how to be alone. We really don't. For years and years and years, we have cast people out of society because they have been unwed, especially for women, right? So, oh my gosh, think about it. A witch in the forest by themselves. Like, people naturally hated them. So yes, it's going to be difficult, but you will eventually find a new community because like energy likes like energy, and they will match your energy, and you will feel loved, and you will feel balanced, and you will all be able to live in your shadow and your light together, right? What you once needed before in your life, you're no longer need, right? You won't need it to get by. You won't be getting by. You will be living. You will be experiencing life at its capacity. You're ascending and expanding and valuing the duality within you, the union within yourself, just like yoga. Yoga means union. So I invite you and really urge you to never be afraid to embrace the secrets within yourself, even if you don't understand what'll happen. Because your happiness depends on you embracing yourself fully. which includes the shadow and the secrets within yourself, right? And I invite you to really pay attention to your intuition and let it fucking lead you. You already know what to do. That's why we have intuitions, right? Intuitions. We know what to do oddly. We get feelings. We try to trust our instincts. That's why they're there. So let it lead you. Let it be your light and your shadow, right? Let it be together. And as you're getting to know your shadow or adventuring on a healing journey in general, sync the hell up with the moon and the sun. Like, if you're not the fucking expert, you know who's the fucking expert? The sun and the moon. Nature. Right? There's plants that don't even need sunlight because they live all up in their shadow. There's plants that need sunlight. There's plants that need shadow and light, right? So learn from nature. The sun and the moon live in their light and live in their shadow. And the moon, especially when it's a new moon versus when it's a full moon, both are uniquely powerful. So learn from the moon and learn from the sun and find balance. And ask yourself, what can you learn from them? Just sit outside and ask, what can I learn for you? Or show me what I need to know, right? And what can you learn from yourself to help you on your healing journey? So that is it from me for episode 16, for the end of this season 1. And I cannot wait to talk to you all in the new year, because this episode is literally just a tidbit of the work we're going to be doing in season 2. And I am fucking bringing the heat in season 2, and I'm excited about it. As I evolve, my business evolves, as podcast evolves, we evolve, we ascend, right? And everyone has also been asking me to get more spiritual, and I am really spiritual, and I think I had to even do my own journey recently on how fucking spiritual I actually am and how tapped in I am, and whatever gifts that I have are actually stronger than I let them be. And so I'm just letting that shit all out. So we are going to continue to do the work. We are still going to hold ourselves accountable. We will live our empowered lives. We will be magical fucking witches who kick shit to the curb, because ain't nobody want that in their life anyways, who have time in their lives to do what they love, because we create fucking time in our lives to do what we love. We are intentional cosmic beings. And season 2 is going to be fucking baller. So I hope you are all there to enjoy it. And I just want to say, if you are ready to take this journey to begin to heal, to tap into your own gifts, to learn about accountability, empowerment, spiritual healing, ancestral healing, and you're ready to fucking shed all of those layers and live all up in your shadow and your light. But we do a lot of shadow work, honey, make no mistake. If you're ready to do that deep depth of shadow work and claim your light and claim your ascension and the life you want for yourself, you need to be in More Than Worthy. It's a 6-month program and it's fucking phenomenal. All you have to do is type in flourishsachet.com/morethanworthy. I'll put the link in the show notes. And I want to remind everybody again that like energy finds like energy. So it's no fucking accident that you have found my podcast and that you are listening to this. So we were meant to cross paths. We were probably recognizing each other's souls from another lifetime. And I hope that you seriously take this invitation to ascend, because it will literally change your life forever. And you will be healing generations and generations after you and with you right now and before you. So it's never just about us. It's about our collective. It's about our family, our friends, our lineage, our history. So let's ascend together. Let's ascend, community. I just want to say again, thank you again for showing up for me, showing up for yourself. And as always, I hope you found value in this discussion, and I look forward to sharing season fucking 2 with y'all. That is a dang wrap for 2022 season 1. I will see all of you magical witches and bitches and lovelies in 2023, sending many, many blessings to you and a happy new year. Hit me up if you need anything. I love you all.
Hey, if you're ready to ascend to happiness and live the life you've always wanted, join me in my Empowered Living Facebook group for socially conscious healers, witches, and spirituals, and sign up to get my free Empowered 5 Practices to Ascended Happiness guide. It's helped others expand their consciousness and soar beyond sight, sound, and imagination in just one day. It's the catalyst you need to embrace your magic and change the world. Just click the link in the show notes, and I'll see you in the group next time.